You are live. All right. Welcome. Hey, it's Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm Experience Tuesday night live chat. I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from lovely Baker's Green Acres in northern Michigan. We're in Marion, Michigan, classified as northern lower. If the further you go up, then you're in. If you cross the bridge, you're in upper, and it's called the Upper Peninsula, right? So that's across the bridge. We have a bridge that's 5 miles long. It's called the Mighty Mackinac Bridge, and it's really neat. When you cross the bridge, you're in a whole different world. Well, okay, I'm just getting in here. I did not milk today, so I don't know what the date is. Let's see. Today's the 24th of June, 2025. I'm just coming in, making hay right now. This is the time of the year when we make hay, and most of it falls on me. And I got one of my helpers that's at summer camp, Jim, 16-year-old. He actually drove himself to summer camp, which was really different, kind of sad in a way. And so it's just me, Jill, and Frank here. My daughter was here today, and they went and picked strawberries, and so they're getting the strawberries all taken care of out at the picnic table, listening to a story. So Jill's off having music practice, and she set me up before she left, and she came out. I had a slight breakdown with my hay bine, and I was fixing it, and she came out and she says, did you know you have the show tonight? And I said, ooh, I forgot about that. And I thought for a second, well, I don't have anything to say. I got nothing to say. So I'm off the hook. I don't have to do the show tonight. And she said, well, I'll just write in farm chat. I said, okay. And that was probably 7:15. And as I was putting my tools away and taking the hay bine off the tractor and finishing up my repair, I just thought about people. I thought about you guys. I thought about my day and the way my summer's been going and the things that have been going through my head. And I said, you know what? I actually do have something. I actually do have something I think that would be beneficial. It sort of evolves to me. And I say, oh, this is good. I'm going to continue to do this because it's way better than the way I've been doing it. So, but before I get into that, and I'm going to name it Staking Your Ground. Staking Your Ground. And I want you to think about taking a flag and sticking it right in it and saying, this is mine. Okay, think about that, and I'm going to just take care of a little housekeeping here. The next thing that's coming up actually is going to be Tribe Day. I can't believe it. It's the 11th, 12th, and 13th. So the 11th is a Friday. If people are camping here, would like to get here after noon, 12 o'clock, and set up their area. We don't really do much on the 11th, Friday. People are just getting set up, and then we have a campfire on Friday night. That's really fun. I don't think we're going to have a massive crowd this year from what I'm hearing. And I'm fine with that because it is not it's not an event that we at this stage of the game see as a moneymaker for the farm. We don't see it that way. And so a smaller crowd is actually a little bit better. I've heard that you should have no more people at an event than you can conveniently stop and talk to everybody for 5 minutes. Well, the heck with that. I don't want to talk with people for 5 minutes. I want them here for the whole weekend. I want to talk the whole weekend. I want to have fun and fellowship and food and all that stuff. I want to do that a lot. And so with fewer people, there'll be more of that. And that's what I'm in it for. That's completely what I'm in it for. By the time everything's said and done, Baker's Green Acres breaks even, or even a little less, to be honest with you. And that's okay, because we get to spend time with our friends and invest in our own community. And that is so important. That's probably one of the most important things that we do is invest in our own community. Okay, so if you are not signed up and you would like to sign up, you have to sign up, and you have to pay your ticket price to come. And the ticket price goes to the food, portable toilets, the help, all that stuff. So it's not very expensive, but it's a great weekend to get together with other like-minded folks. And every year we have new people, so we're always gaining new friends. So I really like that. That's about it that's coming up. So around here, I have been working kind of in that direction, but going about my daily stuff at the same time. I have to get my hay done. I have to get the cows milked. The animals have to be fed. They have to be tended. The fences have to get built. So we're busy. Summertime is very busy. And this year we have an added bonus, I guess. There was a chicken processor north of us, Cooks. We've known them a long time. Haven't spoken to them in a long time, but their chicken processing outfit was, they've shut it down. They're not going to do it this year because their insurance company won't cover them. So they just quit. So we're getting all their people. And so normally our chicken processing business, we like to go one day a week, Friday, going into the weekend. We have a long day of chicken processing. And then we clean up. Saturday is milk the cows. We call it doing minimums. We milk the cows, we feed the animals, and then we kind of take it easy. Sunday, do the same, take it easy, right? But this year we're having to go 2 days. So we're going Wednesdays and Fridays. The great news is I have help. I have 2 guys that are helping us now. One's a homeschool kid that we've known quite a long time, and he's really good. And the other guy is a new guy that's been with us. I think he's been with us for about 6 months. And he comes and works 2 days a week. He works on Wednesdays. He milks Wednesdays and he milks Friday with Jill on Wednesday and me on Friday. And then, I get him going on odd jobs and stuff. But he is going to be instrumental in chicken processing. He's also a trained chef. And so he's been making us lunch, and he just lights up when people say, "Hey, Brian, this is really good." So we didn't know that about him when we hired him, but getting to know him a little bit. What'd you do before this? Well, I worked in a restaurant for quite a long time, like 12 years. I said, so you have culinary expertise. He says, oh yeah, I even went to culinary school. Yeah. So, we got a diamond in the rough. So I think he might be running the kitchen during Tribe Day. We'll see. Our intern of the last 2 years, Covey, wants to come, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. So if he doesn't, then it's going to be Brian and probably Rachel, my daughter, that are running the kitchen. So that's a Tribe Day thing. We cook burgers and fries and stuff like that. So people can come and they can get something to eat and all that. And so it's worked out pretty good. All right. So staking your ground. And this is something that happened to me this year that I just never did. And you're going to say, really? You never did that before? And the answer is no, I really didn't. Sometimes when you get in the hay mode, when you're cutting, you're raking, baling. Sometimes it can be very hot. Yesterday was extremely hot. Today was pretty hot. We had a little cloud cover, so it was better. It can be a little challenging. I'll just put it that way. It can be a little challenging. Even though I've been doing it for 20 years now, every year it's something that as it's approaching, it's like, However, our main thing is feeding cattle, our milk cows and our beef cows. That's our main thing. So the majority of this farm is in grass, just grass. And, various species of grass. There's several different types of fields, a lot of different types of soil. And hay is basically, if you don't know, hay is basically you let the grass grow long, you go out and you cut it, and then you put it in rows, let it dry, and then you go over it with a baler, roll it up in bales, run a stringer over it so it holds together. And then those bales have to be picked up. And in our case, the baler that we use makes a 750-pound bale. And so the bales have to be picked up, put on a wagon, brought over to the farm from wherever I'm cutting on the farm, up here by the barn, and then put in. You got to put them inside. You can't leave them outside. So, my very first field that I did, as I think I told you guys last week, I blew a hydraulic line. And then I couldn't get that fixed because it happened after the time that Ebels was closed. And the next day, after I changed the hydraulic line, my first bale, the stringer went. And so then I had to fix that. And but I finally got it done. And the whole time when you're doing this, you're watching the weather, because if you get your grass cut, you get it in a nice row, and it's all nice and dry, and then it rains on it, it can ruin it. I mean, it can happen once, maybe twice, if you have a good drying period in between it. But if you have 3 days of solid rain, no, you'll lose it. It'll turn to seaweed, actually. And then there's nothing you can do with it except push it off the field. And I've had that happen to me 3 times now. 3 times. Yeah. So it's not good. So you're watching the weather. And, I'm finding lately that it's hard to trust the weather, because like right now, today, they said that we had 85% chance of rain. So yesterday was hot as blazes. It got to 94, and it was really, really bright sun. It was bad. It was really hot. And for us, we don't deal with that much. It's tough. And so I'm looking at it, and they're saying, well, it's going to rain tomorrow, 85%. So it doesn't make sense for me to cut on Monday if it's going to rain Tuesday. But Tuesday rolls around, not a cloud in the sky. So I kind of looked at this and I said, well, Wednesday it says 50% chance of rain. Thursday it says 80% again, and that's changed. And then Friday, 80% plus thunderstorms. Well, who knows? You just don't know. Like, it was supposed to rain today, 85%, but it didn't rain. So I made the decision this morning. I'm just going to cut one of my smaller fields that's got lighter hay on it and just hope for the best, because I need to get it done. And so I did. But as I was doing it, I thought, the last field that I cut, I wound up baling 24 bales, 24 full-size bales. and I counted them in the field. I haul 6 over at a time on my trailer, and not I could handle more. It's just that I lose traction coming up the driveway, and I've gotten stuck before, and then I have to unload them there in the driveway, and it's really bad. So I only put 6 on, and I can make it up the driveway, no problem. That's just the way it is. And I unloaded them in the barnyard, and I did that because I still had hay in the barn from last year. And my plan was, well, I'll take that out and I'll put the new stuff in further, and then I'll feed the older stuff first. I thought that that's what I would do. Well, yesterday it was hot as blazes. I had to go to town to get something. I got back, didn't feel like doing a lot because it was so hot, but I thought it's going to rain tomorrow. I got to get this hay in. And so I went in the barn and I counted how many I had in there, and I had 24. And then I had 24 to put on top of it, 24 more to put on top of it. And for some reason, I have never counted my bales of hay that I put in. I never have an accurate count. So I wind up making it all the way to the end of winter, and spring is coming. That the cows they're gonna be going out on pasture, but you're never quite sure, am I gonna have enough? If I don't have enough, where am I gonna get some more, And last year was the last year that's going to happen. It's the last year that's going to happen, because this year I have a map of all my fields, and I'm going to write on each one how many bales I get off that. So at the end of hay season, I'll be able to say, oh, I've got this many bales. And then I can calculate how many days that is, and I will know how much hay I have, and I'll know how far I could go if I needed to, into spring feeding. And there won't be any of that, well, I wonder if I got enough, And it may seem like a little thing. But I think the reason why I haven't gotten an accurate count is because everything is happening so fast and your mind's going like crazy. It's hard work. There's the pucker factor. Is something going to break, And when you get done and you got it in the barn, it feels like, well, good enough. I got it all in. Last year, I didn't have enough room in the barn. I had to put some in the new barn, the Sutton building. But then we wound up using that building for something else as well. And so I wound up having to put some outside. And when you do that, you put them in a straight line and you tuck them in close. And I was doing that at the end. No. I take that back. They were all in the barn, but I wound up wanting to use the Sutton building for something else. And so I had to take them out, and I made the decision, well, I'm taking them out in the winter. We don't have a lot of rain in the winter. If we get snow on them, that's not a big deal. And I will feed those ones first, which I did. So I had some out. But my season went by, and I still had 28 bales left when the cows went out on pasture. And they're out on pasture now. They're very happy people. We're happy. They're happy. Well fed. Oh, boy. They eat like pigs, and they're giving a lot of milk. My beef cows are just plumping right up on this nice spring grass and summer grass and drinking water and swatting flies. And things are going really good. But as I was cutting today, I thought, you know what? I'm going to be doing this for the next 20 years. So I need to really know this process. Like, do I know, like on a hay bind, it has these things called guards in front. And the guards guard the blades. And if you hit something like I did today, somebody marked a hole in the field with a steel pole, and I didn't see it. So I hit that, and it broke off one of my guards. So I had to lift the hay bine up, bring it to the shop, get the tools out, take that one off. And I've done it probably 25 times in the 20 years that more than that. More than that. Probably 40 times. And you know that I had to take 3 or 4 sockets under there with me because I wasn't sure what size it was. I wasn't sure what size the nuts were. And I thought, this is stupid. I should know that. Well, I know it now. I know it now. And I even took a pen, a Sharpie, and I wrote on there 5/8. Right? I know right where it is. I know right where I wrote it. I can see it. I'm going to keep seeing 5/8. I know 5/8 because I know I'm going to have to replace more of them because it's a thing that happens. You know, when you're cutting hay, you hit things. Shouldn't at this stage of the game, but somebody marking a hole out in the field with a steel bar. Yeah. And then it fell over and I didn't see it. Yeah, I hit it. And it wound up bending one of the teeth and it broke the guard. And then I put another guard on and it was still kind of bent. I bent it down a little bit, but I didn't want to go too far with it. And I broke another guard, right? So I had to bring it in again. I actually broke 3 guards today, just right there. Just right there. I'm down to my last one, and I'm going to have to go and get some more of them. And it's an old piece of equipment. I only know one place where I can go and get them, and it's way over in West Branch. So it's about an hour and 15-minute drive. So maybe tomorrow, if it is raining, I'll be able to take a ride. I'm going to have to do it anyway. They're not expensive. They used to have them on the shelf at Tractor Supply, but they were cheap. They were made in Pakistan, and they weren't good. And they broke really easy, but they were cheap. So anyway, I found this guy over in West Branch, and he just had a box full of them, and they were used, but they were still had a lot of life in them. So I got a bunch last year, but I've already gone through them. So anyway, I thought, what else is there in this process, which is only a facet of the entire operation that I don't know about and that I'm worried about happening? What else is there? I'm thinking, well, these belts go sometimes. That chain goes once in a while. I kind of got that fixed, though. I was buying Chinese chains, and I finally got an American chain that works really good. So that's what my train of thought was, because to be honest, sometimes I think I wish somebody else would do this. And I have these thoughts about saying, well, maybe I could just hire these guys to come in and make all my hay, and I just go out and pick it up and put it in the barn. But I always hold short of actually doing it. Last year, a guy helped me a little bit, but I was more kind of responding to his want to get in the hay cutting business, and he made it like halfway through and his equipment broke. So I wound up having to finish it. So as I thought about this, and I thought, okay, well, this is just hay making, but that hay is what the cattle eat in the off season, in the non-grazing season. And then we milk them, and then we go to great care to make sure that milk is strained, put in jars, and cooled, and then made available to our customers, which is really neat. We had a walk-in customer today, so we signed up another person for herd share. Real encouraging. I've lost a couple lately. 2 people that got their own cows, and I don't get to see them anymore. One of them's Aaron. Is Aaron with us? No. All right. So with that in mind, I started thinking about how important that aspect of this business is, because the milk business, I see copperheads with us. They don't like me talking about the milk business, but this is my experience, so I think it would be edifying to people for me to say, this is how this is going with me, because I didn't grow up in a household that milked cows. I never cut hay before I came to Michigan. Never one time. I never owned a tractor actually before I came to Michigan. So I had to learn all this stuff on my own. And I think in a lot of ways, it's beneficial because it's not just, well, this is how you do it. I have to think things through and think about, why am I doing it? Am I doing it in the right sequence? Am I overcoming my fears about it, or phobias? Yeah, same thing, right? Or things like that. Am I overcoming that? And when I start thinking that way, like, I really need to know everything there is to know about this. I need to become the expert at cutting hay, at least with the equipment that I have. And then I have these feelings like, well, I need better hay equipment. I definitely need hay. And there's some validity to that. If I had a different hay bind, like a disc bind, I would not have the breakdowns that I do with my hay cutting operation, and it would be more efficient, quicker and stuff. So eventually I think I want to find one and get a small disc bind. And what that is mine is a sickle bar. So it has a blade that goes across like this. But a disc bind has rotary blades about like this big, and it has as many as 10 of them. But on a smaller one, you'd probably have maybe 6. And when you turn it on, you put power to it, and it spins up, and there's a lot of momentum. And as you're going, it's just winging that stuff, just like a mower, like a lawnmower kind of. And it's a little bit more to it than that, because you don't want to mulch the stuff. You only want to cut it once and then pull it out of the way. So it has a system that does that. And I don't know that much about it, actually. I've never used one. I've only watched people use them. And when other people using them, it's like, wow, look at how fast they can roll over that field. And they're never looking behind them like me. I'm always looking behind myself to see, did it plug? So, yeah, I probably will upgrade at some point, right? But as I was thinking this way, I thought, what else could I do to make this process better? And I wind up in the same place that I wind up all the time, Let's fortify this position. Let's make it better. And so some other things came to mind. There's a structure that I have to put up this year for my milk cows for wintertime. And I'm thinking that, I could put a partition in, and I could put hay on one side. They could be on the other side. That might work out pretty good. I started thinking along those lines. But yeah, that's what I was thinking about today. Like knowing my process, knowing exactly how much hay is going to be in the barn when I go into winter. And like that first bale that I take out, I'm going to be thinking, okay, I have to feed hay until this day in the spring, and I'm going to be able to be dropping, 2 bales every other day. So I'm going to need this much, and so on, right? You calculate it by how many pounds they eat per day, and we figure 30 pounds. So a 750-pound bale. I think I did the calculation for you last week, because what you want to know is cow days. right? So a 750 pounder divided by 30 pounds is 25 cow days. So if I had one cow, she could go 25 days on a bale. But if I have 10, we can go 2.5 days on a 750 pounder. Right. So and that's about right. I'm usually every other day I'm feeding in the wintertime, which is about right. At some point I may put in another bale feeder. So when I have the tractor fired up, I take 2 out instead of 1. And I might do that. That would be smart to do, because a lot of times I have to clear snow before I can do that. And, it would just be smart. And if I'm not on the tractor feeding, I could be in the truck plowing. So when I do go to feed, everything's opened up and I don't have problems, So that would be a lot smarter now that I think about it. I just thought of that. No, I've thought about that for a long time. Bale feeders are pretty expensive. I'm having a cup of coffee. Probably shouldn't do that, but I got some stuff to do after I finish here. So let's see. That's it. That's my whole message. But I guess it comes right down to, sharpening the stick or fortifying the position, course correction, all that. It's kind of the same, isn't it? But I want to own that process. I want to know everything there is to know about shrimping. I know everything there is to know about shrimping. I know everything there is to know about cutting hay. I know all about it. I know every species out in that field. I know the nut size of every bolt on that machine. I know what's going to go wrong when it starts making this noise. I know what it is. A lot of times you just want to get it behind you and then park the equipment, and I'll see you in the spring. But I can't do that. I have to really own this process, and because of all the things that I do, the one that gives me the most pucker is hay cutting. I'm sorry to say that. I watch my neighbors, and it's like they get in their tractors, turn on the air conditioner, and it's like they couldn't be happier making hay. It's not even a challenge to them, but it still is to me. Still is to me. All right, so what do we got? Oh, yesterday was so hot. I decided that I was not going to work outside yesterday because I only have so much energy, and I would have been beat up today if I just went for it. All right, the Copperhead's with us, just me, Keith Sutton, and Putnam. We have a weather station, and it is so much more accurate in Midland. City gets different weather than us, and they're only 2 miles away. When we do hay, we now run 7% vinegar, diluted from 49%. It breaks down the chemtrails, along with my electroculture. We have had done it last minute, and rain just a mile from us is not here. Oh, okay, right. Yeah, chemtrails. Hey, I heard a good thing today about chemtrails, that there's been a pause in chemtrails nationwide. And the gal that tracks it says that a pause has happened for 36 hours. She doesn't know why. She speculates that something more costly is coming. But she said that USAID, which I guess has been defunded, was the source of a lot of the dollars that they used to do that. So maybe it's coming to an end. I hope so. I can't stand to see that. Vinegar in a humidifier. Andrew, wish I could come to Tribe Day again, just not great timing. My day job screwed me into 12s, but I had a great time literally breaking bread with you for the pigs. Yep, we did have a good time. I still haven't fixed that water leak that you pointed out to me, Andrew. I noticed it the other day and it's still leaking. Yeah, Ann says, we used to have someone cut and bale our hay before we had our own equipment. Never got cut in the prime time, which horse people are pretty picky about. Yeah. I know I really can't even be concerned. I cut it when I can, cut it and get it in. And then Dave Duncan's with us saying, howdy, Dave. Yesterday when I put that hay in the barn, and this has never happened to me before. It's kind of tricky getting in there. And I've never stacked it as neatly as I did yesterday. And when I was done, I backed up from it and I said, man, that looks good. I got 48 bales in the barn already. 24 from last year and 24 this year. I never did take the old stuff out though. So I'll rectify that this year. I will make sure I make it to the end, and I'll fix it because I was kind of up against the clock yesterday, so I just put it in. And that was part of my thought process on owning this and doing it well. Yeah, so that's it. That's my message for tonight. I am partially out of things to say. Anybody else got anything that they want to comment on? We had a whale of a time last week in our consulting call. There's a lot of people that are in Tribe Plus that don't come. I don't get that. If you had someone come out to your farm to do consulting, it's very expensive, so you can come to the consulting call. I know you're getting a notification. If you're not, then you need to call the farm and talk to Jill. But it's a nice time. We do a Zoom call and there's a lot of good conversation. We start off talking farm stuff and how you doing and all that good stuff. And sometimes we vary into urine facials, actually. We talk about all kinds of things. Okay, how do you set your price for eggs in the fluctuating market? That's easy. That's really easy. Your eggs off the farm are better than the eggs on the shelf. They're better, way better. And the way that you signal that is you charge more for them. So I'm not sure what they're going for at the store. We've been at $5 a dozen for a while, and that's just where we are. Our eggs go really fast because now that we have the store, people are coming in after their milk and they see, oh, you got eggs, $5. They don't bat an eye at that. And so our eggs go really quick. And to the point where sometimes eggs can almost be a liability when you just have them stacking up in your fridge and you wind up giving them away. So what do? You just cut your own throat. You drive the price down. But when you keep them high, people, and if they don't want them, they can get them at the store, just like anything else. You don't compete with the store, right? One of the things that we've done that has been very good for this farm that I would recommend is an on-farm store, right? So all a store is a storeroom. It's just a place where we store stuff. So we got a couple freezers in there, 3, 1 upright and 2 chest freezers, and then a refrigerator, and that's the refrigerator is where the milk goes. So it is not by the road, right? It's not by the road. It's in. So anybody that wants to go in that has to drive into the center of the farm. And that has worked out really good. Really good. If you have it out by the road, then it's kind of subject to people looking, but the way it is here, like this guy that came in today says, no, I found you on Google Maps. We were looking for raw milk and you're on there. Right. I didn't know I was, but, and So they said that we just moved up here from South Carolina and we had raw milk you get at the store down South Carolina, but here you can't. They say it's illegal. And I said, well, don't worry about that. This is private and it's between us. So don't worry about it. So we talked for a little while and, well, he's here. He got a bunch of meat and some eggs and split. Brand new guy. His wife and daughter came and worked out really good. So the store, I would recommend that. I would really recommend that. And you can have very little in there, or you can have a lot. And if you have it there and you have someplace where you can store the goods that you produce, well, then they're likely to be exchanged for dollars. And, if not, you can use out of the storeroom. You can work out of the storeroom. So it's worked out really good. Is meat sold like milk, like herd shares? No. Milk is on herd shares, and that's semantics. The reason we continue with herd shares is because we need to match every gallon that we produce with a person, right? And you cannot run a raw milk operation if you just say, oh, I just put milk in there and I date it, come and get it when you want it. You can't, because then people will take the newest milk and the old milk gets pushed to the back. So we assign people who are in our herd share a day, and you have to be quite Nazi-esque about this, but it's a contract, right? And we say, okay, we provide grass-fed milk. We cool it, we strain it, we put it in this jar, and then we put it in this fridge. That's our end of it. And we want $10 a gallon for it. But your end of it is you got to pick it up on this day. And we can't allow people to say, oh, well, I'll get it on the weekend. Nope. Then your day will be on the weekend. And then if you don't get it on Saturday and you don't get it Sunday, which I don't really like people coming on Sunday anyway, then you lose it. We're just going to use it for cheese because we can't allow it to stack up in the milk cooler. There's just not enough room. Whoa, why don't you get another fridge? Because I get another bill for running that fridge. That's why. So we're running it very tight. And our end of the deal is your milk will be on Tuesday. Is that okay? Yeah, we can be here Tuesday. Good, because if you're not here Tuesday, your milk won't be here Tuesday. That's our deal. And I need the jars back. And be honest with you, lately the whole jar situation has been a little bit of a thorn in my side because people, oh, I forgot my jars. Well, if I don't have jars to put the next milk in, that means I have to go buy them. I can't do that, because that's my profit because you forgot. So go home, get your jars, and then come back and get your milk. And next time you won't forget. And it seems kind of, well, you're a milk Nazi. You gotta, if you don't, they'll just throw the jars in the trash because, there's no accountability. So we have to do it that way. With the chicken processing business, and I highly recommend if you wanted to make some extra money to run a chicken processing business because it's really worked good for us. It's nothing that I planned on doing. It just kind of evolved. And, but we're kind of Nazi-esque on that too. Drop-off time is the day before between 5 and 7. So there's a 2-hour window where you can drop them off. If you show up at 7:30, we're closed. Oh, but I got all these trailers I got all these birds in my trailer. Hey, there's nobody here. Like we've gone on to the next thing. We set aside 2 hours. We will receive your chickens then. If you're late, you're out of luck. You're just out of luck. You're SOL. Sort of out of luck. And we have to do that because if we don't, Pickup time is the next day between 5 and 7. And if they was late the first day, then they'll be late the second day. And so we have to have somebody hanging around to load them out. And when we're done at 7, we want to be done. We want to be done. And we used to allow that. Someone would say, well, I don't get off to work till 10:30. And then she would be here at 11. Well, I'm done for the day. I don't want to get up from watching, Oprah reruns and have to go out and load chickens out at 11 o'clock at night. And finally, that person had to find someone else because I simply wouldn't do it anymore for her. And we're not hurting for customers when it comes to that anyway. And really, if if customers can't, pay attention to detail like that, you probably don't want them as customers. They need to go someplace else. Go to the Amish. They'll do them for you. Okay, Dave Duncan says, okay, so no, meat. Meat goes, we almost don't want to do shares with meat because with a share, I'm saying to them, I will have this for you every week. We don't have an endless supply of meat. And if I space it out to where I'm selling meat, weekly, they come and they get their milk and 1 pound of hamburger, then I'm storing that hamburger for them. And there's really no urgency. So we're out of beef right now. We are out of beef. That a bad thing? No, that's a good thing because all the beef that we produced is gone and I'm not paying to keep it frozen. I've made my money on it, right? And it's still summertime. So next year, I probably need to butcher more beef. But my customers wanted that grass-fed beef. They want it badly. And so there's a sense of urgency. I better get it while I can. And we don't do the halves and wholes things either. We just don't because it's really inconvenient for somebody that says, oh, I want a half a cow. And you tell them, well, that's going to be, $850. And they'd be like, wow, that's a lot. And then they got to have a freezer and all that stuff. So if they can buy it by the cut, then they're getting the cuts that they want and not cuts like, well, what am I going to do with this tongue? Well, only half a tongue because you got a half a beef. And then if people want liver, they can buy liver. If they want other things, they can buy that. But some people don't like that stuff. So, all right. So no, we prefer to sell meat by the package, right? And I know that there's rules about not doing that, but I disregard those because I just do. All right, Just Me says, even if they say that Costco eggs are bigger, well, then they can go to Costco and get them. I'm a little skeptical about anything that comes out of those big stores as far as food products because you just don't know what they've figured out how to do. If we give this chemical to these chickens, and I don't know this, but I'm just a little skeptical about what they sell. And when you look around, it doesn't look like people are doing real good on the food that they're getting from the stores. It just doesn't look good. So I'm not interested in selling to the masses. If somebody says to me, oh, I can get them cheaper at Costco, I would never even offer them eggs again. As soon as I hear those words, it's like, well, you probably ought to go to Costco because, yeah, if somebody says something like that to me, they can go. A friend of mine said, David Duncan says, a friend of mine says he was told he need either USDA inspected or an exemption from the USDA. But my kids just sell meat that they butcher. So I didn't know what to tell my friend. Tell him go to Costco then. or he can turn me in. Give him my phone number and my address and tell him to call the USDA and tell him to come pick me up. Talking about pork and beef. Yeah, no, we sell it by the cut. They don't get to tell me how I can sell, my property to another citizen. They don't get to tell me that. They don't have the authority to do that because I have no contract with them. I've never agreed to do what they want. I've noticed lately that Michigan Department of Agriculture has put out there's a thing on my Facebook feed, and it shows all these different, like strawberry milk and, all in a row. And, the Michigan Department of Ag, they're getting involved with all these wonderful small farms throughout the state. They even have a map that they'll put you on there. And when you read through it, it's like, yeah, but it better go to a USDA processor or a Michigan Department of Ag processor to be processed. What that means is pasteurized. So in the milk world, they call pasteurized milk cooked milk because that's what it is. They run it through a process to heat it up and kill everything in it. And then it's safe, So I suppose if you put chalk in a blender with water and made a potion out of it, it would be safe, because there's nothing alive in it. So yeah, you can put it in your mouth and swallow it and but you're not going to get out of it what you were intended to get out of it. This is all design stuff. This is all design. And if you don't buy into the design of the environment that we live in, then we don't need to have this conversation. We just don't. There's plenty of people that understand it and use raw milk and will go to great lengths to get raw milk for their children. And these aren't dumb people. They hear the rhetoric coming out of these agencies about raw milk. Ooh, raw milk. Raw milk bad, Mountain Dew good. Raw milk bad, Jack Daniel's good. Because they're getting a bite on it. They don't like raw milk because they can't get their teeth into it. So they pull the old, it isn't safe. We're doing this for public safety. Well, we didn't ask you to look after us and run along, just run along. All right. Ann says they use an antibiotic to make seedless watermelons. Yeah, I don't like seedless watermelons. It doesn't seem right. And all the fun that I have with just taking a seed and holding it in my hand and then looking at somebody and they don't know I'm doing it. And then I squeeze it and it hits them and it sticks to their neck or something like that. Or if, women have low cut stuff, you try to get 2 points. You don't have all that fun, so I don't like seedless watermelons. Yeah. And so she says she's with me and trusting the grocery stores. Yeah, we've just been lulled into this sleepy time where we think, well, somebody at the USDA has looked at that, and those guys are experts. They know everything about food. So it must be okay. But they're constantly having recalls on things, where 1,000 people get some sort of weird thing, and then they have to take all this stuff off the shelf. I thought you guys were checking all that stuff. And then you have a recall to bring it all off the shelf, They're always playing games. With my customers coming here, what I do with them is when they want to get in a herd share, we require that you come to the farm and meet with us. And if I look at them and I think, no, they don't know what they're doing, then I'm a little bit skeptical if I want to do this. Because if they've really bought into the fear, then as soon as their kid gets sick with something, they're going to say, oh, it must have been the raw milk, But you got to see through why, like who benefits from the fear that they're constantly throwing in your face, constantly throwing fear in your face. When milk comes out of a cow, it's a process that we actually play a very small part in. Like I scrape the manure and I wash the bottles, and I have a part in this. But the greater part is, like as I was coming in, my cows were just heading out. Hot day, they stayed up around the barn. They stayed in the barn, laying in the barn, and they were just heading out when it was cool. They're going to be down there all night long, chowing down on grass that they cannot keep up with. They cannot keep up with it. And their bodies are going to convert that grass and the weeds and the forage off the trees and anything else that they decide to eat into milk. We don't have a lot to do with that. That's beyond our pay grade. That's a design characteristic of the cow. And then for an outfit like MDA, of all the departments, to say that it's not safe, it's laughable. It's actually laughable. And you just have to wonder why they go to such great lengths to disparage something that is a design product, created by the designer. And they are the ones saying, not safe, not safe, Mountain Dew, okay, Cheese Whiz, fine, but not raw milk. It's kind of laughable in a way. And then they have their little rules, right? Their rules always benefit industrial ag, always. And it's pretty easy to see, the manipulation that's going on. Right on, says Just Me. And Putnam says, B12 in those seeds, you should be eating them, not spitting them. To be honest with you, when I'm eating watermelon, look out. I swallow a lot of those seeds. I don't chew them up, but I swallow them. I do. Yep, because I just get in a feeding frenzy when I'm eating watermelon. I loves watermelon. I loves me some watermelon. I bust it open, no seeds, and it's like, this ain't right. Let's see. I just touched on something that I thought was kind of important. Yeah, that whole design process is something to really give some thought to, because when you're doing any of these processes and you hit kind of a snag, back up from it and look at it with that prism, or with that set of glasses on. Wait a minute, now this is a design. If something's wrong here, it must be me. It must be me, because this is designed to work. Our milking for, I don't know, the last problem we had with a cow, excuse me, the last problem we had with a cow was probably Cece and her hoof problem. And I don't know if I've told you guys about this. We deferred to the vet, and he said, "Oh no, you can't. Nothing you can do. This. She's got arthritis and inflammation and da 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 da. If you can't shoot her, I will." And I really did not want to shoot Cece. I love that cow. She's been with us since she was just a calf, and she had a bad hoof when we got her. It was kind of a deformed, knuckled under, they call it. And so we straightened it out, and she's been with us, for, I think this is her 8th year, I think. And I did not want to have to shoot her. And so I didn't then, because, I was going to do what the vet said, but he's a friend of mine. But then we had our consulting call on Wednesday night, and it was Ann Putnam that said, "Have you used DSMO on her?" And I said, "I have not." but it was sort of, and I wasn't really thinking, oh, that's going to work. I was thinking, well, I can burn some time. I can go to Tractor Supply and get some and then try it on her. And I won't be getting hassled by the kids and Jill about Cece's in a lot of pain. You got to do something. And she's made I would say almost a full recovery. I mean, if you look at her hoof, it's still not like the other one, but she is not in pain. She's walking on it. She glides just like any other cow, and she's walking out to the field. And she's walking, probably a mile out, not quite half a mile, but let's say a third of a mile out and a third of a mile back every day. A couple days she hasn't gone, but I was looking at her real close. I think she was in heat is why she didn't go, but she doesn't like the bull. Yeah, nobody likes him. But I think that's why she didn't go out. And so, she wasn't designed to be broken. And I'm so glad that I did not shoot her. The vet call cost me $90, and I didn't wind up doing what he wanted me to do. I never did get back to him on that. I should. All right, what else we got? You guys got me for, it's 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. And Tuesday nights, I usually have a pretty good meal. And we had a windstorm Saturday. Power was out until the next day. So we had to run the generator so we could do all of our stuff, our milking and all that stuff. That worked out good. It's nice when you are prepared and you say, okay, if the power goes down, what's the procedure? And so I just went through the checklist, shut this off, turn this on, boom, we had power. And so we put maybe about 5 hours on our generator, and I shut it down at night. I didn't let it run all night. Didn't need to. It cooled off, and everything was nice and cold. Next day, I ran it for an hour, maybe 2 hours. I had to make coffee, right? And then the power came on whenever, noon, I guess. So it was a piece of cake. So Ann Putnam said something that, B12. Ann is a wealth of information. She knows a lot about a lot of stuff. That's the nice thing about the consulting call, is because there are people there that know a lot of things that I don't know. I've learned a lot from her about different things, the finer parts of nutrition and natural cures and things like that. Chemtrails. Oh, urine facials. Yeah, I've learned about that too from her. I haven't actually done it yet. We get into some interesting things. Mark, what do you think about what's going on in the Middle East? Well, it's an interesting thing to watch, isn't it? I've been knowing about terrorism for most of my military life, and I've watched it since then, and I think it's a terrible thing. And anybody who sponsors young men to do horrible things is bad. And Iran has sponsored a lot of that, a whole lot of that. Some of our biggest problems are, the groups, the names. And we even had some of that starting up here in the States, but it hasn't really caught on very well because our intelligence outfits get into that and they figure out who those guys are and who's funding them, and they just cut the money off. So they don't really catch on. But in the Middle East, you have a lot of young men that are just spinning their wheels. And when you really look at it closely, terrorists are terrorists full time. And if there is not money going their way, they got to get a job. And so very few or no terrorists work a full-time job and then just dabble in terrorism at night. They don't. They're full-time terrorists. They put them in schools. They train them. So they have to have dollars to do that. And I've been watching the last 10 years, the amount of money that has flowed into that particular country. And I was on board, and I wish that they did a more, we don't know how thorough of a job that they've done. Although I believe they know. I believe they know. They're not letting on, though, because we have aircraft that can fly over and that can sample the air and know, exactly what happened in that explosion. We even do that in conventional weapons, which those weapons were conventional. They were not nuclear. So I think it was a good thing. I think it was a message flying out of Missouri, 7,000 miles, dropping payloads, and then come back. I mean, they didn't have to do that. They could have staged the weapons like on Diego Garcia and then flew the airplanes there, flew in there with massive fighter support, got the job done, and got out. But they didn't do that. It was a surgical strike. There's a lot of thought that goes into that. Haven't been in that business. A lot of thought. It wasn't a reaction. And the whole thing with Trump giving them 60 days to come to the negotiating table, on day 61, the Israelis hit them, and they took out a lot of their air defenses. So the B-2s flew in there unmolested, completely unmolested, which is, once you lose control of your airspace, it's over. So, Trump claiming a victory and saying, peace in the Middle East and all that stuff, it'll take a while because you still have very fanatical groups of people, but there will be a regime change. And any volley of munitions that's happened in the last couple of days, that's going to drop off. That's just going to go away because it just will. Yeah, that's just a fanatical group of people that are saying, well, I'm going to launch these, because they don't really have good control of their own militaries. They really don't. And so you have guys that are just kind of lone wolves doing stuff. So there will be a regime change, and probably the son of the Shah will be put back in. And then you'll see that country flourish again, because it used to be a beautiful country. Whenever the jihadis take over, any country that they've taken over, you can tell because the women are all wearing goblin suits, and they're just looking out through these little slits, wearing all black. So they didn't used to be like that. And so I think they'll be restored to the great nation that they were before. They're not bad people. They just have really bad fanatical jihadi leadership. And jihadi means their whole function is to kill infidels and Jews. Probably Jews, then infidels. That's their whole reason for living, right? Their whole culture. Well, I shouldn't say the whole culture, but the religious fanatical ones that take over. And with that mindset, if you don't go along with it, bang, and they don't feel bad because they believe that if they die a martyr's death, then they go to their heaven and they get 77 virgins. Yeah, that's what they believe. I remember, this is a funny story. Back in Montana, I had just gone through some training about what the whole jihadi mindset was. And there was an old guy at church, and he was an old rancher. I don't think he ever left Montana. I don't think he ever left that area other than to go to church. I used to help him a little bit on his ranch. He's about 80. And we were standing in line at the potluck, Christmas or Sunday, after church. We're having a potluck. And it was really fun because everybody gets together and eats and everything. And so he was standing in front of me and he turned around and says, "Now, why are these people doing this? Tell me why these people are doing this." Is something had happened. And I said, "Well, Dick," his name was Dick. I said, their religion teaches them that if they can kill me, or if they die in the process of trying to kill me, right, that is what they call a martyr's death. And they go straight to heaven, right? And they're in the presence of their God, Allah. And Allah bestows on them 77 virgins. And I'll never forget, Dick said to me, he's shaking his head, and he says, "That don't sound like heaven to me." I could see an 80-year-old guy not thinking that would be so cool. But, if you're a 20-year-old guy and they hand you a suicide vest and say, "Go to it," there's a bus in Tel Aviv. They get kids to do that, and that's how they do it. It's bad. It's really bad. But it's not all of them, though. It's just their leadership. So don't. And I think that what our military did this time is showed tremendous restraint. There was a lot of risk, I'm telling you, to fly those aircraft into their airspace, because you don't know what they don't have. You don't know. And those airplanes, they're up pretty high, but still, they're not moving fast, and they're heavy. They're big. B-2s. So there was a great amount of risk. Now, a safer way to go in is to go in with a tremendous amount of fighter support. Anything that gets in the way, any radar blip that comes off the ground, you're zapping it. And they put their radars in civilian areas. But we didn't do that because the commander-in-chief did not want collateral damage. He did not want to wage war on those people. Now, the Israelis, that's a different story. They hate them. They hate them. And I kind of can see it because the Iranians have been very rough on Israelis. And I'm not a big Israeli fan. I'm not. I don't like either one of them any more than the other. I'm not a big Israel lover, and they've done some rotten stuff too in the past. And I think we're going to find out more rotten stuff that they've done. But they've had their backs against the wall for a long time. And if they're not preemptive, they would all be dead because they're surrounded by a group of people that thinks they're going to get 77 virgins if they can kill one of them, So it's a tough situation that the Israelis are in. But I'm not a big Israel lover, I've known plenty of them, and, they are the way they are. And, so I don't want to see death on either side. I don't want to see any death. There's no reason for it. These people could coexist. If they would just listen to the mamas and the papas once in a while, everything would turn out, I think. Or maybe Abba, what I'm saying? All right, what else we got here? So that's what I think about that. It's kind of interesting to the way it's unfolding, but looking at it militarily, they didn't have to do it the way they did it. They could have really made it tough on that group of people. And I don't think the commander-in-chief wanted to do that. I think he just wanted to protect the United States. And people are saying that, well, he's just doing whatever Netanyahu wants them to do. Nah, if they got a nuke, and they could get it to the United States, and they're working on ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missiles, if they could do that, they would do it. And I don't think anybody Yeah, California dreaming. If they could listen to that, they'd all be nice people, I'm thinking. And you can't allow that to happen. I don't think people think it through clearly. If nobody in that region really likes them because of all the rotten stuff that they've done, like Hamas and Hezbollah and all that. They're all sponsored by the Israelis. I mean the Iranians, and they've done rotten stuff in every country. They try to have intelligence, but they wind up just being thugs. And so if they pop a nuke off any place over there, it's going to destabilize things quick, because then you got other groups like the Pakistanis and the Indians that all they need is a reason. I mean, I wish they didn't have nuclear